I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street.
Do you like eating sand? What about talc or titanium dioxide? The fact is, 99% of all vitamins on the market contain unnecessary and potentially toxic additives. That's why we've created Pure Vitamin Club. Our daily multicap is a carefully balanced formulation of the 13 essential vitamins plus 11 key minerals with no added ingredients of any kind. Just the nutrients your body needs to function at its best. But no vitamin will do you any good unless you actually take it. So we've made that easy for you. Pure Vitamin Club will deliver your vitamins to your door for pennies a day. Pure Vitamin Club.
Click on the Pure Vitamin Club bottle on the right side of the screen of this podcast webpage to get started.
Welcome back, guys. On a recent trip to LA, the lovely Serena Scott Thomas was kind enough to sit down with me outside of a Starbucks. Serena is an actual Bond girl from the James Bond film The World Is Not Enough, as well as the woman behind the man, Vinnie Tortorich. We talk about modeling, film, Vinnie, and her new play, Two-Fisted Love, currently at the Odyssey Theatre in Los Angeles. Keep in mind, this episode was recorded outside, so there is some background noise that I couldn't get rid of. Okay, guys, Serena Scott Thomas.
Yeah, talk to me, yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Serena.
Hi.
Oh my gosh, Serena Scott Thomas, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sitting down with me. It is an honor.
Oh, shush.
I cannot believe my luck.
No, you're silly.
So thank you. Everybody knows who you are. I promise, everybody. You might not think everybody, but everybody knows who you are. But let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
I think I can tell from your New Jersey accent that you're not from here.
Correct.
So where were you born?
I was born in a little tiny village in the county of Dorset in England, which Dorset is about, or where I was born is about 120 miles southwest of London. Tiny little village. At home I was born. And
You were a home birth?
I was.
Oh, how cool is that?
I know. My mother was very brave. I was her second child, so I think she had my elder sister at the hospital, and then she had me at home. I don't know whether it's just she couldn't get to the hospital on time.
So was there a hospital close? Like in case things went south?
A few miles away,
oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I would never do that, though. Would
have
never.
A birth at home?
No, it terrifies me.
It's too risky, right?
Well, I mean, obviously people did it.
Sure.
know.
Yeah, but a higher mortality rate a while back.
And I think people were more used to that. I'm not saying it didn't affect them the way it would affect us, but right. I think it was less shocking, perhaps. I don't know. Who knows? You know. But anyway, I'm a scaredy cat. And I wanted all the drugs I could get, too.
Really?
You're kidding? Yeah.
That's funny. So how old is your daughter?
She's
Can
20.
I say her name?
You can, yes. She's 20.
And her name is
Tallulah. Yeah.
Okay, so you were born in Dorset County. Mm-hmm. And were you also raised there?
Yes.
Is that where you grew up?
I was raised there, but I was sent to boarding school for a lot of years, as people do in England. So
why do they do that?
Oh, God, I don't know. It's a punishment in America.
Absolutely.
Sort of. Yes.
Yeah, it really is. If you don't straighten up,
young.
mister, you're going to go to military academy.
It's like therapeutic boarding school.
Yeah. In England, that's just the norm?
I don't think it's the norm as much today as it was in my day. My mother's rationalization for it was that she had just remarried to my stepfather. And he was being stationed a little further away.
He was in the Royal
Navy. As was my father. Okay. And he was being stationed a little further away, and she thought it would be better for us to be in one school and not be moving around all the time.
So y'all stay over there, we're going to be traveling?
Well, it wasn't that far, not even, it was, I don't know how many in miles, but 60, 70 miles, it wasn't that far, but it was certainly too far to go every day.
Right.
So Kristen and I went to this boarding school. And then when my mother was at home, in our family home, we'd go home at weekends.
I love the way your people say weekends.
As opposed to?
Instead of weekends, y'all say weekends.
Oh, yes.
I love it.
It's like mosquito.
Oh my gosh.
My daughter's always teasing me about it. We say mosquito. You guys say mosquito. We say mosquito. There's all sorts of things like that I don't think about.
Oh my gosh, they're great.
It's quite funny.
Love them.
That noise is bloody awful.
It's great, right? Thanks, buddy. Oh my gosh.
It's okay, it's going.
Yes. I mean, come on. It's an outdoor recording. What do you expect? When Vinnie was here, we had this guy who was some Armenian businessman speaking in whatever language.
Armenian.
Is it okay? Speaking in Armenian really, really loud.
Yes.
And it was like he was getting an argument, and he just kept getting closer and closer and closer to us. And finally, Vinnie was like, hey, folks, we're just going to wait a few minutes until this guy finishes whatever he's doing. So you and Kristen were both away at boarding school?
We went to boarding school. I was 7, just about to turn 8. And actually, there was a little girl whose father was in the army, and she was 4, and she was at boarding school. Personally, I think it's a little barbaric. I can't imagine sending my daughter away at that age.
Oh my gosh, that just seems like the most formative year.
I remember the first night there.
You do?
Oh God, I will never forget it.
You make it sound like it was your first night in jail.
Pretty much, yeah, that's what it felt like. We were very excited at the idea of going to boarding school because we felt very grown up and we were going to get uniforms. We just felt very grown up.
Are y'all about the same age? I don't...
Kristen and I are 16 months apart. She's 16 months older.
Okay.
So we did a lot of things together as children, almost like a set of twins.
Yeah, my sister's 18 months older than me, so...
Right.
Yeah.
And it's always Kristen and Serena, you know, it was always, and then the others came after, 5 kids total. Anyway, so we went, and then I remember getting into bed and sleeping. We slept in these little cubicles in this massive dormitory. And I think I shared with my sister, and suddenly realizing what I'd done and crying my eyes
what
out.
you'd done, like it was your choice.
Well, I had complied willingly, thinking it was all very exciting, but then I realized that actually it was a lot less exciting than I thought.
So your first night, you just cried yourself to sleep?
Not just my first night, many, many nights.
Oh my God, that's heartbreaking.
I used to get terrible canker sores in my mouth.
Really?
Yeah. And then I would get a septic throat every time I went back to school after the holidays. And I've always said it was the emotion that got stuck in my throat and the words that couldn't come out. I was very, very homesick.
My daughter, when her mom and I first got together, my daughter was living with her father in Memphis. And so she would come and stay with us for a while, and then she'd go back. And every single time she flew home, she got sick.
Yep.
As soon as she got home, she got sick, like for 2 days. Like she was just sick every single time.
Yeah.
And we just figured it was because, you know, she missed her mom.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I can
she's been
identify
us
with
forever,
that.
But, so yeah, I get that. How long were you away at boarding school? You would come home for the what, like winter break or something?
Oh, yes. And weekends, too. When they were at our family home, which was 4 miles away, we would go home to there. But then we'd have to go back on Sunday night. So as an adult, I've always suffered. As an adult,
as an adult on the weekend.
The funniest one is harassment, which we call harassment.
Yeah, y'all do.
But I get what I call Sunday nightitis, which is this sort of deathly gloom that falls upon me about 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon on Sundays. Not anymore as much, but when I get it, what I do is I'll have a bath or a shower and put on my pajamas and slippers, you know, early in the evening, you know, make a sort of comfort food supper for myself.
Really?
Yeah.
That's precious.
I have to take care of myself in that way. I have to sort of parent myself through it.
So I'm just going to assume that for Tallulah, boarding school never crossed your mind.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. What about your sister? Does she have children?
Kristen has 3 children, and
did
I
she
think
do
some
the
of
boarding
them. Well, she raised them in France, where it's not as typical. But her youngest son spent some time in boarding school. Actually, I think he's there now.
Oh, he's bad.
He didn't
he's
go
a bad
as young
kid.
as. No, he's great, but he didn't go as young as we did. And my younger sister's children, yes, they went to boarding school.
So you spent time in boarding school, and then you didn't spend your high school years in boarding school, did
No.
you?
Well, the last 2 years of my education, I actually managed to convince my mother to let me go to the local school. And it was very interesting because when I was in boarding school, the major part of my boarding school years were at a very strict girls' boarding school. It's a very famous school called Cheltenham Ladies College in the Cotswolds, which is where my mother had gone. Cheltenham Ladies College.
Okay.
It was one of the first women's boarding schools. I think it was started in the early 1900s by, some really extraordinary women.
Sure.
And it was the beginning of the thinking that women were anything other than just wives and broodmares. And so it was very, for those days, inspiring and driving for us to have a career. But I remember the careers officers, the choices they gave us were, let me think, librarian, secretary, nurse. There was the odd brainiac who could become a doctor.
Sure.
But it wasn't like today, where the choices are infinite. That's for sure. But I was so busy rebelling that I really didn't know what I wanted to do. But the last 2 years of my education, I managed to convince my mother to let me go to this school nearby, which was fantastic, and I loved it. And I was so happy.
Really?
And for the first time in my life, I actually cared about my work. It was interesting.
So was this a co-ed school?
No, it was all girls.
All girls.
I never went to a co-ed school.
Really?
So I knew nothing about boys. Nothing. I didn't have a father, and my brothers were younger, and they were at boarding school. I was at girls-only school, so...
That actually, I guess, is going to answer a question that I have later, which I'll ask now. So, when you first told your parents that you were dating some Italian dude from the bayou, did your dad's monocle fall out and he was like, what the hell's a bayou? No.
It's a funny thing. First of all, I don't have a father, so my father was killed when I was very young.
Sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Was
it's an old story.
Was it in battle or?
No, it was during the Cold War. It was on exercise. He was a Fleet Air Arm pilot, and he was killed off the coast of England doing an aircraft carrier, some kind of very, very dangerous exercise in planes that were apparently known to be faulty by the Navy.
The Royal Navy.
The Royal Navy. And there was an article that came out recently, charming as it was, it upset us all terribly, in an English tabloid that said that they called it a suicide mission, which is always lovely to hear. The Official Secrets Act had expired on the information about his crash because we never really knew how it happened.
Right.
And there it was, a full description of exactly what happened to my father.
Really?
Yeah, it was really horrid.
And it was in a tabloid?
Yeah, pleasant, huh?
Oh
It was
gosh.
because my sister had been made a dame by the Queen.
Oh, okay.
And it was the same day, it was the anniversary of his death, so they wrote this piece. And none of
How
us
lovely.
knew.
How sweet of them.
It was charming.
Oh
It was
my gosh.
absolutely charming. And of course, it was, that's how we learned about how exactly it happened.
Is your mother still alive?
Oh, yes.
How did she take that?
She was devastated.
Oh my
Devastated.
gosh.
None of us knew. And there it was in all its glory. He died when I was 4.5 or 5. It was March 17th. I don't know exactly how old I was. But my mother, she had 3 daughters and was pregnant with my brother, Ben.
Is everybody's middle name Scott?
No. I have a half-brother, Matthew,
Okay.
who came from my mother's second marriage. And here's the really spooky thing. Is my mother's second marriage was also to a Fleet Air Arm pilot, also with the Christian name Simon.
Really?
And he was killed in a plane crash when I was 10.
What is wrong with your mother?
Yes, I know. I don't know what she did in a past life.
Did
but
she
it must
stop
have
after that?
Well, for a long time, yes. But now she's very happily married to a lovely man, so we're all delighted.
To a retired pilot?
No, he's just a really scary driver.
Well, he drives on the wrong side of the road, right?
Well, what can you do? These Brits. But yeah, so it wasn't your average, 2.2 children, picket fence, Ozzie and Harriet childhood by any means.
Did you grow up on a stately manor?
Oh God, no. We grew up in a little. It was 3 workers' cottages that my mother bought and converted into one house. Very
that's cool.
Simple little place.
But you grew up around horses, though, right?
I did. I begged, borrowed, and stole whatever I could because I was horse mad. I even rode a donkey for a while because it was the only thing available.
That is so cool.
No, I was horse mad.
So,
it was partly because I love to be out in the countryside.
Right.
I've always had a great affinity for nature and found great solace in nature. And where I grew up is so beautiful.
Really?
It's exquisite. Yeah, it's really one of the most beautiful places on
do you
earth.
get back there often?
Not as often as I would like, although last year I did. I went back 3 times. It was very nice.
Oh, not very often. No, 3 times last year.
No, but that was, I mean, I've gone 5 years at a time sometimes without going home.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So when you go home, is your sister still over there? Like, when you go home, are you just going to see your mother, or who's over there?
It depends. I usually spend a couple of days in London and visit my brothers and sisters, and then I go to my mum's house. Very often, some of them will come.
You go to his house?
My mum.
Your mum?
My mom.
Your mum?
My mum, Mumsy, and very often they all come down too. So we all have a sort of family gathering there, which is
that's cool.
Really good fun. Yeah,
That sounds like a lot of fun.
it is. It's really nice.
Some of my listeners might not know. Could you tell me what a black rod is?
Oh God, it's a man. The black rod.
The black rod.
I know it sounds rather
It does sound rather.
sketchy.
Mm-hmm.
The black rod is a position in Parliament appointed by the Queen, I think. To be honest, I don't really know that much about it. This is what I've sort of gathered. And he basically opens Parliament every year, one of his duties. I don't know what else he does. And we always used to joke because my uncle had to wear these sort of silly frilly knickers, these bloomers, to do it. And he bangs this staff on the ground and says Parliament is open. And it was to let the Queen in or something. I don't really... You know what? I'm completely talking out of my arse.
It's kind of like how we do here in court. We're like, all rise.
I think so.
Sort of like that, but on a much
something like
grander
that. But
scale.
I'm not really sure why it's such a big honor, or I'm very ignorant about that stuff. So I'm going to go home and look it up. Actually,
You're so funny. So you have no idea how your uncle came about that position?
I know he was very high up in the Navy. I think he was a rear admiral, maybe even an admiral. I don't really know. We're not very close.
Gotcha. And this was your father's brother?
My father's brother.
Okay.
Exactly.
And then you've got, like, what was it, like your great-grandfather or something? Or your grandfather was like an explorer?
No. We are distantly related, so the story goes, but who knows? You know how people like to fantasize about their ancestry. In fact, there's a whole business
I make
made out
all
of
kinds
that.
of stuff up about mine.
So the story goes that Robert Falcon Scott was some great uncle or cousin or something like that. And of course he came to a rather chilly end.
Now that's the guy who sort of just walked away from camp and froze to death or something?
Yeah, he did. And the funny thing was that at one point when I was living in London, I dated a guy called Tom Oates, who was descended from Captain Oates.
Really?
Who had been with him on that expedition. Yes.
As soon as you found that out, you broke up?
No, you go out there.
How dare you?
Yes.
You're sleeping outside, man.
Mm-hmm.
When did you decide that you wanted to be in the entertainment industry? How did that happen?
It happened because...
'Cause I can't imagine there's a big entertainment industry in Dorset County.
No, indeed. When I was a teenager, I used to go up to London a lot, hang out with friends, and go
Is
to
it
concerts.
not far?
A couple of hours on the train.
Okay.
And I had one very dear friend and we're still friends today, who lived in London, and we would go up there and visit and hang out, and I would be scouted, by modeling agencies a lot, and even though I secretly really wanted to be a model, because what teenage girl doesn't?
Or boy.
Or boy, yeah. I thought it was beneath me because I was going to go and be a lawyer or an interpreter. I was passionate about languages at that time.
How many languages do you speak?
Well, I used to speak fluent French and Spanish and a smattering of Russian, but, my French is okay. My Spanish is horrible now.
When
My
you say
Russian
Spanish, do you mean Spain Spanish? Or
Spanish,
Okay.
Castellano, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh.
proper Spanish.
With the lisp and everything?
With the lisp, yes.
Nice.
Do you know that the most useful thing that I ever studied was Latin?
Because everything is based on, right? That's
Well,
the
not
root
everything,
of...
but any
a lot.
Romance language is rooted in Latin.
I don't think
And
they teach Latin anymore. I think they stopped teaching it quite some time ago.
They do in some places. For example, my daughter's school we chose because not only is it the best school around, but also they offer Latin.
Oh, cool.
And I really wanted her to have that, and in fact it has served her very well. It's not just because of the language element of it, and the Romance languages are rooted in that, but also it's the way that it teaches you to think. Unraveling Catullus, who's a poet, and the intricacies of the way he formed sentences and his use of words and grammar, and it was so difficult. It was like the hardest crossword puzzle you've ever done.
Really?
And I love puzzles. So I loved that. And then I loved reading about Hannibal coming from Carthage up across the Alps, through Spain and up across the Alps to conquer Rome in Latin.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. Julius Caesar. It's fantastic stuff. And also, I had the most divine Latin teacher, Mrs. Domini, her name is, which means teacher in Latin.
Sure.
Teachers, I think, actually. Plural, masculine. But anyway, that was the most useful thing that I learned. So, when people scouted me for modeling, I'd be like, ha, you've got to be kidding, even though secretly I really wanted to do it.
Right.
Because I was really quite desperate to have a life of my own, make my own money, and just be free. Having been in boarding schools from the age of 7 until 15, and then, going, even though I went every day, it was still a convent, and it was very strict. I had this absolute allergy to anything institutional, and unfortunately, I thought that university would be the same. So even though I did get a place to study international law, I never went. I just kind of derailed at that point in my life. And I ended up living in Ibiza in a recording studio for a year and a half, and then I was on my way to...
Living in a recording studio?
Yeah, not in the studio.
I was like, what?
So, as is very typical of women that don't have fathers, I was... how can I say this? I was sort of abducted by an older man when I was 17. That's the only way I can really say
like in
that.
a cult.
It was just me, and I thought it was all cool and fine. It's funny, I was 17, almost 18, and he was 37. And he was my ticket out of there. And what happened was he managed to persuade me to take a year off between high school and university. That was his sales pitch. And go and work for him in this hotel recording studio that he'd built in Ibiza.
So this is a man of some means.
No, actually he had nothing. He was in debt up to his eyeballs, but what did I know?
Okay.
I was just so naive, it terrifies me. Anyway, so I went, and I had no intention of going back. I promised my mother I'd go back after a month, and of course I knew that, screw that. And I was there, and I was miserable, but I didn't think to go home. It was the strangest thing. And then I broke up with him and started dating a guy who was a major drug addict. And I didn't know. God. And, I knew he was into drugs, but I didn't know he was, he told me he used to be a drug addict. Ha ha. And we set off for Paris, and we ran out of money in Barcelona. We got as far as Barcelona, and I think he spent it all on drugs.
Nice.
So there we were, hanging out with some friends of his, one of whom was a fashion designer. And he said, oh, you need money, you should go and meet this woman. She has a modeling agency. And so I was like, okay. So off I went, and I started a modeling career in Barcelona.
So your modeling career started out of, I guess, desperation or a need for cash?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I had
That's
nothing.
Cool. So,
well, not really. It was actually particularly uncool.
Oh,
but,
really?
It was rough. It was very rough. But it never occurred to me to go home, and I don't know. It's just it was almost like I sort of blacked out and forgot that I had a home. It was very strange. And then this guy introduced me to drugs.
And how old are you at this time?
I must have been 19.
Okay.
We lived in Barcelona for 9 months, and we just partied. We'd have people to stay, and we'd sit around the breakfast table, and we'd go, right, what are we going to take today?
Nice.
Is it going to be acid? Is it going to be heroin? Is it going to be cocaine? What is it going to be? And it was really, I didn't realize at the time it was a problem, but because I was kind of having a good time,
Right.
you know, and I was working and I was making money and the sun was shining and fine. So then we finally made it to Paris, and I was fully fledged model at that point. I was doing a lot of TV commercials.
Okay.
Actually, and the short story version, it was very gruesome, and maybe for another time.
Or not.
It degenerated, as those things do, through a series of very toxic, codependent relationships with several different men who had several different vices, and it got really bad until I was a shell of a human being. And the last man was violent. He was a complete gaslighter, and he reduced me to nothing. And it was very, very sad. You know,
I can see in your eyes that it's painful to even talk about this.
It is, when I really think about it. I don't think about it very often. And I'm very blessed that I have a fabulous life today. But it was, you know, if I think about my daughter, I mean, it wouldn't happen because I wouldn't let that happen, you know.
Okay, so let's get out of that sadness, and let's assume that that is what propelled you into being a sober person?
Yes.
Okay.
My mother appeared at a very fortuitous moment, a series of coincidences that I choose to call God, which quite astonishing actually, to do with my grandmother's death and my grandfather traveling on a ship and all kinds of strange things. I hit rock bottom in South Africa, of all places. And the people I was working with were very lovely, and they sent me home. And they said,
Were you modeling, and those are the people
I was
sent you
modeling,
home?
and the photographer came to my room, and he said, "What's going on?" And I went, "Nothing." And I wasn't really drinking or using at the time. I was kind of sober-ish, but I was depressed beyond. And he said, "I can't take pictures of you. Your eyes are too sad."
Oh my gosh.
So
That's heartbreaking.
I know, it's a sniff. So the people that I was working for, and I don't remember their names, and I wish that I did, because they were like angels in my life. They took me out for dinner, and they said, "What is wrong?" And I said, "I don't know, I'm just really unhappy. I want to be an actress, but I don't really dare because my sister's an actress and I don't want to tread on her toes."
So she was already an actress by then?
Yes. She'd come out of the womb wanting to be an actress.
Oh, okay.
And I was the kind of brainiac with the glasses and the knock knees and the turned down.
You were going to be an attorney.
Yeah, I mean, I was the kind of token clever one in the family, even though I'm not really that clever, but you know. So anyway, that was what my family had chosen for me, as families are wont to do.
Sure.
Really, I was a frustrated actress. So anyway, these people encouraged me to go back home and take acting classes and do it and do what I wanted to do. And my mother happened to be in my flat when I got back to Paris. She was on some trip for her college she was attending at the time. She was studying gemology. And she'd happened to have read about a rehab center very close to her house in England. Yes, she'd written an article about it, and then she'd written an essay about it for her course, for her gemology course or design course, because it was about architecture. And then the newspaper came through, and there was an article about this building that she'd written about that said it was a rehab. And it was a series of coincidences like that. And she said, "Why don't you come home and we'll get you in there?" And I went, "Okay." You know, I mean, you could have said, "Run around the world twice, go to the moon and back, and swim across the Atlantic." I'd have done it.
Apparently, because all that happened.
Yeah. Yes, actually,
You
as a
did
matter
all of
fact.
that.
No, but anyway, so that's how I ended up getting sober, and that was 32 years ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Well, you know, not me. It's
Some of it's you.
well, I got lucky.
You make that choice every day.
Not really. I don't really
Especially on the weekends when Vinnie's drinking scotch.
Oh, it doesn't bother me at all. It doesn't bother me. I'm very lucky that way. It's like I look at it and go, poison. I see a bottle of alcohol. I just put a skull and crossbones on it. And you know what? I was such a junior alcoholic and such a junior junkie compared to so many people. You know, when I was in rehab and I heard about what they were all drinking and using every day, you know, their everyday habits was my attempt at suicide.
Right.
You know, that was a pretty poor excuse for an alcoholic and addict.
You're looking around and seeing Keith Richards and going, maybe I'm not so bad.
Well, I mean, and that's a problem.
Yeah, it is.
Because you go, well, I haven't done that and it hasn't gotten that bad for me.
Right.
And a very wise woman said to me, Serena, you may not be an alcoholic now, but you can bet your bottom dollar that if you carry on all of those things that they're talking about, they're going to happen to you. And
you're just not there yet.
Yeah, they're yets. And so I had this moment of, I guess it was, a spiritual awakening when they were talking about the difference between emotional reactions to things.
Okay.
You walk into the office one morning and the boss doesn't say hello. One person says, oh, he got out of bed the wrong side this morning. He's in a bad mood. And the other girl goes, oh my God, I'm getting fired. And I was the one that was getting fired. And they were talking about the emotions of this type of personality. And that's what got me.
Really?
It's like I went, oh my God, that's me. That's who I am. That's how I think. And that's what I identified with, was the feelings and the psychological makeup. And that's what hooked me.
So how did you get from taking acting classes in England to being actually a working actress?
I carried on. When I went up to London immediately after getting let out of rehab, I went back to modeling, and I ended up doing a ton of commercials. A ton. And I was working a lot. I was pretty happy. It worked for me for a good few years. But my favorite was the commercials, obviously. And
why?
Because I was acting. And even though it was silly commercial stuff, it was still fun. People treated you like a human being instead of just a coat hanger. Anyway, so I worked with a director who was a movie director, and he said to me...
On a commercial?
And he said to me, Serena, what the hell are you doing being a model? You're an actress, stop it.
And you said, what the hell are you doing?
That's my sister. Well, then, every now and again, movie directors do get hired to do commercials, you know, and they get paid good money for it.
I think Mick G's done a lot of commercials before he was
a lot of them
Mick G.
have,
Yeah, a lot of people.
And it's a big deal, It's such a sort of coup for the company to get one of those big directors to direct one of their commercials. And it shows, I think. But anyway, so he and his lovely wife, whom I adore, they were the ones that really motivated me. So I was about 26, 27, maybe even a bit later when I
Does this person have a name?
Richard and Felice Longcrane.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, my angels.
Nice.
And so I started, I went and got an agent, and I was lucky. I walked into an agency. I said, I want to make money acting. And he saw my tape, and he went, yeah, you're hired.
He saw your commercial reel?
Yeah, he was great. He was very ferocious, and he was a very good agent, and I got very lucky. And I had to wait a while before I got good, juicy parts. It took me a couple of years.
You had to pay your dues or whatever.
Yeah, and I went to school. And
did it ever occur to you to ask your sister?
No.
I
was terrified of what she would say.
Really?
I was terrified of hurting her. I was terrified of not being as good as. I was terrified because, everyone was always, oh, Kristen's such a fabulous actress. You always know that, of course, you're going to be compared,
Yeah.
So,
the curse of the siblings.
Yes. And I didn't want to... I really felt sort of unworthy and guilty. And so I've always kind of almost apologized for my acting career. And I'm happy to say that now, finally, aged 56, I think I am.
Age, question mark?
Well, I just forget how old I am. You know how that goes. I now I'm not ashamed of it anymore. I've finally decided that it's okay for me to say I'm an actor or actress.
Just now?
Yeah, it's pretty pathetic, isn't it?
It's a little surprising considering you are a member of a very exclusive sorority of Bond girls.
Yeah, but, there used to be. It's cool to be a Bond girl now, but there was a time where if you were a real actress, you didn't do that kind of work.
Really? You didn't deign to stoop that low?
Oh my God, no. And you didn't do telly. You were film or theatre, but if you were a television actress, it was kind of a joke. Or if you did commercials, it was kind of a joke. You weren't a real... Of course, the world has changed hugely since then.
Yeah, everybody's doing everything now.
Everyone's doing anything they can get their hands on because it's all changed so much.
Right.
But in those days, there was definitely a stigma to that kind of work.
So what made you say yes to being a Bond girl?
Because I thought it was fun.
Really? You were like, I'm doing this one for me, guys.
Yeah, it was fun. I actually auditioned for the main role. Didn't get that.
Of James Bond?
Yes, James Bond. No, for the main role that Sophie, gosh, I can't remember her name. Anyway, gorgeous girl, she did it. And the director, Michael Apted, called me up and he said, would you do this role? And I said, yeah, hell yeah, of course I will. And I did it, and it turned out to be the most fun thing, and it turned into the most fun thing, being a Bond girl. And I had no idea when I did it. To me, it was just, the character's name was Dr. Molly Warmflash, and the director had called me and asked me if I would do it, and I thought, what the hell, that sounds like fun. Don't say no to stuff like that. That's just silly.
It sounds really cool.
Yeah, it was great.
And was that Pierce Brosnan?
Yes, lovely man. He's the nicest.
Is he?
Oh my God, yes. Absolutely lovely man.
He was Remington Steele, right?
Yes, he was.
Oh my gosh, I grew up watching that.
Right?
That was like my
the coolest.
favorite show. He was so cool.
Yeah, I thought he was a fabulous Bond. Fabulous.
He was a really good.
Yeah.
So he's a nice guy. Super
the
nice
nicest.
dude.
The nicest. Such a gentleman.
And he's had
And
a
his
pretty
wife is
lasting
lovely
career
too.
also.
Oh yeah.
He's
I
in
have huge respect for him.
He's got, I guess, Mamma Mia 2 coming out or whatever.
is he?
Yeah, he's in that.
Our kids were at school together, which was
Oh,
funny.
really?
So I'd see him on campus. It was fun. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was neat.
And so his wife, you said, what's her name?
Keely.
Keely.
Yeah, a lovely couple.
That's awesome.
Yeah, very good people.
So you're in acting, you're a Bond girl, you're doing obviously other things.
Yeah.
Were you living here in LA? What brought you to LA specifically?
My
Was it
acting career.
Your acting
Yeah,
career?
so I came here in '94. I'd done a lot of work for NBC, a pilot, a miniseries, and I had the look that was popular, I think, in America. And everyone was saying to me, you're going to do great if you go to LA, blah, blah. And I've always loved the sunshine. I've always wanted to come here. So I came and immediately got a job in South America for the BBC, which is how it goes.
That's funny.
I know. And then I came back from that and I got a series in San Francisco with Don Johnson. And then I finished that and I got married and had my daughter. And that was difficult. After I had my daughter, it's very difficult.
So did you
as an
come back
actress.
here after that and,
Yes,
and
I
have
came
her
back
here?
here. I
Okay.
came back here. I did the series with Don Johnson. I met my husband. I had my daughter. And then I did the Bond stuff after that. And after I had my daughter, it became difficult. And I guess I wasn't as motivated. I wanted to be at home. I turned down a lot of work. I wanted to be at home with my daughter. My daughter to be separated from me, or as little as possible.
Right.
So in her very early years, I didn't really do very much at all. And then I did a series in Montreal. She came and visited. But, every time I've done a series and I've been away from home when she was little, I just kind of hated myself for it.
Felt guilty?
Guilty, and not just guilty, but like it didn't feel right to me.
Gotcha. How'd you meet Vinnie?
I met Vinnie outside Starbucks.
Oh, yeah?
Not this one.
So, I want to hear you tell that story because he's told the story. I want to hear your version.
Well, I think he likes to tell it with like, there was that chick. But, he's so full of hot air. I was out running.
Angry hot air.
I was out running with a girlfriend, and we always used to meet in Calabasas up there, park there, and then run around this nice loop. And I went there one day, and one of her friends was there, and she had just finished a bicycle ride with her trainer, Vinnie. I was dating someone else at the time, and I saw him, and I went, oh, he's cute. Like you do, you see people, and you go, he's cute, but he was standing there kind of looking angry on his bike. You could sort of feel the energy emanating from him. He sort of bristles. Just
Sexy.
by name. No, just annoying, actually. And it's like, get over yourself. But he said hello, and then afterwards, a couple of days later, my girlfriend that I've been running with said, you remember that guy that was on the bike? Well, apparently he asked his client to ask me if you were dating anyone. And I said, yeah, well, I am, so there goes that. So that was the end of it. 6 months later, I was actually dating someone else it was a long-distance relationship. And I'm sitting outside Starbucks with the same girlfriend And
Same Starbucks?
Same Starbucks. But
You're a creature of habit, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I love my Starbucks. And I was sitting out there and I just dropped my daughter off at school and I was like wearing sweats and Uggs and my hair was all like, it's like how you go to school to drop your kids off at school.
Sure.
You don't get out of the car, but then your friend says, oh, let's go get coffee. So there we were. And Vinnie walks out with another friend, a mutual friend of ours, who I say hello to. And he goes off and Vinnie sits down and we're talking and suddenly I go, oh, right, that's the guy that was on the bike. I looked at him and I went, yeah, you're kind of sexy. But it wasn't really, I don't know, it wasn't really in my mind, because I was in a relationship in which I wasn't very happy at the time, but I wasn't going to let that go. Anyway, Vinnie called me and asked me out for dinner and I said, well, I'm actually dating someone, but thank you, that's very flattering, and if it weren't that way, I would have loved to, And he said, well, what's the deal with your boyfriend? I said, he lives in Mexico. And he goes, oh my God, well, you're in for a world of hurt. And I said, excuse me. He goes, long distance relationships don't work. Oh my God, get ready. And I thought, you fucking asshole.
You just met this guy.
I know. And he's telling me how my relationship's going to go down the spout. Well, unfortunately, he was completely right. Because he's always right about people. That's the annoying thing. One of the annoying things about Vinnie, he has this uncanny and unfailing ability to immediately, upon meeting somebody, read them and tell you, and he's right. And it's so annoying.
Really?
Yeah.
He's really good at judging books by their covers.
His instincts with people
Really?
are above and beyond anything I've ever met. It's eerie.
Well, that's sort of flattering in a way because he didn't steer you away from this interview. So he must like
he said
me.
he's a good guy. You have to do it,
Oh,
Serena.
that's very sweet.
Yeah. So that's how
Can I get you to
Vinnie
say that one more time right into
He's
the
a good guy. You need to do the interview. No, and it was funny because Vinnie was pursuing me, and I had not, and I got dumped shortly thereafter by the King of Mexico. We call him the King of Mexico.
Sure.
He wasn't. I didn't tell Vinnie straight away because I
Yeah,
didn't.
why would you?
I just needed him at arm's length. I was heartbroken,
Right,
and
sure.
I just didn't want to know, and oh God, I was devastated. I ended up taking my daughter skiing for New Year. And the person that I was supposed to be skiing with was ill or something and couldn't ski. So I was left up there by myself for New Year with a child. And then I remembered that Vinnie had said that he was coming up to Mammoth with his friend, who I also knew, and his friend's daughter, who had been at school with my daughter. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going to call them and see if we can hang out, because then the kids can hang out and I won't be skiing by myself because I was bloody miserable. And so that's what happened. So we'd skied together for a few days and I still didn't tell him that I'd been dumped, but I was, I couldn't deal. And then one day we were skiing and he and I stopped and we went to get something to drink, and the kids wanted to go out for another run. So they went out with our mutual friend, Jonathan, and Vinnie and I sitting on the steps. I will never forget. It was one of the most embarrassing moments of my life. And he goes, the other kid's name was Maddie. And he was very close with Maddie because he'd known us that she was a baby. And he goes, so, Maddie tells me you don't like me.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my.
How many colors did you turn?
I'm not often dumbstruck, but I was dumbstruck for a second. I was like, oh look, there are the children.
Squirrel.
And Tallulah and Maddie had been talking. Anyway, it was terribly funny. But, after that was when the flirtation started, and then the rest is history.
Was this the same trip to Mammoth where you guys went to some sort of a weird chili party?
Yes.
Was that the same?
Yes.
The same trip?
Oh God, yes.
So Vinnie
God.
describes in a.
Because you're really hauling me over the coals on you.
Well, there's a specific thing that I want to ask. He
Jesus.
says that y'all went to this party and
Y'all.
y'all. Yes, I'm from Texas. So he says y'all went to this party and I think you said Bo Bridges was there.
Yes.
With his
complete with his eyebrows.
with his distended gut, as Vinnie likes to say, because he was telling Vinnie
He had to be a vegetarian.
That he shouldn't eat that chili and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But then he couldn't get very close to Vinnie to tell him because his giant vegetarian gut was in the way.
Vinnie is so complimentary about people, isn't he?
Yes, he's the charmer. But he was saying that there was some fellow who he described as looking somewhat like Rick Moranis, who sort of took you off and was like hitting on you and was like, hey, look, there's my house over there and check me out, aren't I cool?
Oh my God, it was the funniest thing. He was following me around.
This Rick Moranis looking fellow?
Yes, and he took me out onto the deck of the house. It was night, and all you could see was a sea of city lights. And he pointed out to the distance to one of the thousands of lights that were out there. And he goes, see that light over there? That's my house.
Third star from the left, straight on till morning.
Literally. And I was like, oh, yes, isn't that lovely? And I was still...
Was this a move that had worked for him in the past?
I don't know. It didn't work on me. And then there was that awkward moment at midnight where everyone kisses each other.
Oh, this was New Year's?
Oh, God, it was so bad. It was so bad. Because I sort of secretly quite liked Vinnie, but I wasn't really sure. But, there was this other guy chasing me around, and I was like, I was so freaked out.
Well, you can't skip the good part. Who did you kiss at midnight?
I don't remember. I think maybe I just went, Happy New Year, like that, and gave him a kiss on the cheek, I think.
To this Rick Moranis fellow?
No, God, no.
To Vincent.
To Vinnie. I think it was like super awkward. Super awkward, because you know what, really? He is a geek.
Vinnie?
Yeah, nobody knows this about him. He is a nerd.
He's a nerd?
He's a super nerd.
I think he called himself a nerd when I interviewed him.
He's really smart.
He really is smart. He's got a lot of, as far as he doesn't shy away from spouting facts and reasoning behind his NSNG.
Yeah.
And when he does that, he comes off as like the most worldly, intelligent person. So
he comes from a family of intellectuals.
Yeah, his parents, both of them. Yeah,
deeply intellectual. He is super smart. His problem is that in life, he looks like a jock.
Yes.
So people make the assumption that he's not smart. And because of his speech impediment and his hearing problem that he had as a child, he has this kind of muffled speech. And he didn't learn to speak properly until he could hear. He was like 6 or 7. So his grammatical skills, his language skills are terrible. And he says these terrible things like, they was, and things that make the hair stand up on the back of my neck, and I'm forever correcting him, and he gets really tired of it. So people think that he's not that bright, but he's incredibly bright. He's one of the smartest people I know. It's scary smart.
And you gave him the moniker of America's angriest trainer.
I did. I do take credit for that. We were driving along, and there was a huge billboard for Jillian Michaels, and it said America's toughest trainer, I think it was. And I said, you should call yourself America's angriest trainer. And he went, hey, that's not a bad idea.
That was probably at the height of her powers on that show,
so.
Whatever that show was called.
Biggest Loser.
Yeah, that's funny. So he liked it and ran with it, huh?
Yeah, he did for a bit. But we found that people got put off. Some people got put off because they thought that he would be torturing.
Because now he's an angry jock.
Yeah. Well, yes, it's true. It's true. He actually denies that he's angry, but I think he's extremely angry. In general.
How could he possibly deny that?
It's amazing, isn't it? Denial.
Like half of his podcast, he's shouting at somebody.
Don't even notice I'm always lying. He is. But that's what drives him. It's why, you know what? He's made lemonade.
Yeah, he has. By any chance, did he happen to bring home a dinner plate that might have a picture of him on it?
Oh, was that you?
That was me.
Oh my God, I love that
thing.
That is the funniest. Apparently the conch shell has its own Twitter account now.
Really?
Is that you?
That's not me. But I was the plate. Yeah, that was me.
I laughed so hard when I saw that. Oh my God, I love that thing. It's on display in our house.
Good, as well it should
Oh my God, it's the best.
That's fantastic.
It cracks me up.
Good.
I love that shit.
Good. So I see this giant rock on your finger, but I'm under the impression you're not married.
Oh, this is a I love you forever ring, and the only reason I have a wedding ring on top of it is because, this is the perfect segue, I am doing a play at the moment in which I play a married woman. And it's called Two-Fisted Love, and it's about the unraveling of a family in Silicon Valley due to the fact that the mother, who is a famous TV actress, has been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
Okay.
Primary progressive multiple sclerosis. And it starts out as a comedy and then it goes deeply dark. And it's at the Odyssey Theatre on Sepulveda, opening tomorrow.
Tomorrow is...
February 10th.
February 10th?
Yeah.
And how long is the run?
6 weeks.
6 weeks? Okay.
Yeah, we're doing Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 3 p.m.
So tonight, I imagine you've got a dress rehearsal or something?
We have a preview tonight, yeah.
Preview, okay.
Yeah. So that is why I'm wearing a wedding ring, but we are not married, much to my chagrin.
So I had this wonderful idea that you guys, the two of you, should do like maybe like a limited 10-episode podcast where you tell the story of your relationship, both of you. And then the 10th episode is an audio recording
of his proposal.
Of your wedding. And it could be called Fit to be Tied.
Oh, that's genius.
So do that.
Just because that's genius, that title is genius. We have to do that. Maybe that's how I could get him to marry me.
I'll shoot him
I think
an
we
email.
should start a campaign to get him to make an honest woman out of me.
Oh my God, that'd be great. Let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up.
Yes, we've been talking forever. Sorry.
Well, almost an hour.
Oh, is that the normal?
Yeah, around there.
Okay, good.
Between 30 minutes and an hour, something like that. The main thing is I don't want to keep you all day.
You're sweet.
I mean, you were nice enough to break off some time for me. Even though I made it wildly difficult with all of my scheduling.
No, you didn't. You're fine.
Thank you. So where can people find you?
Facebook.
Facebook-ish. Serena Scott Thomas on Facebook?
Yes, there are two accounts. One has a very old picture of me with red hair. It's not that one. That was one I started as Dr. Molly Warmflash at one point when, I don't know, never went. I just didn't do anything with it. The other one is a picture of Vinnie and me, and there's a picture of me and my family. That's the Facebook. But I am on Twitter and on Instagram, but I don't really do that. I should. But yeah, Serena ST, I think, is my Twitter moniker.
Okay.
And Instagram is S. Scott Thomas. And I've got to start doing that, so maybe people can encourage me.
Well, everybody look in the show notes, and her social media handles will be in the show notes, so you can reach out to her there. I want to thank you again so much. I really, really appreciate it.
No, it's been my pleasure. It's been a
Thank you
joy to talk to you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, if you like what I'm doing, click the Amazon banner at the top of the homepage on FascinationStreetPod.com and do all of your shopping through Amazon. Once you click on it and it takes you to Amazon, you can bookmark it or add it to your favorites and you won't have to go to my site each time. It helps me keep the show going, and again, thanks for listening to Fascination Street. Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2014 album Intransigence, used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is Apollo from the 2001 album Into the Known by the band Sapphire. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit about our guest. We'll see you next time on Fascination Street.